The last human footprint on the moon was pressed into lunar dust in December 1972. That was over 50 years ago. Since then, nobody has gone back. Not once. And the reason why is stranger than you think. We had the rockets. We had the crews. We literally walked on another world 6 separate times. So how did the most advanced species on Earth just stop? Did we forget how? The answer is uncomfortable. By the end of this, you'll understand why going back is harder than the first time, what knowledge we genuinely lost, and why 3 separate powers are now racing to plant flags in the same gray dirt. But to understand why we left, you have to understand why we ever went. And here's the twist most people miss. Apollo was never really about science, it was about fear. Rewind to 1957. The Soviet Union launches Sputnik, a shiny metal sphere that beeps as it orbits overhead. Americans looked up, terrified. If they could put a satellite up there, they could put a bomb up there. Then it got worse. In 1961, the Soviets put Yuri Gagarin into orbit. First human in space. The United States wasn't losing the space race, they were being lapped, and the whole world was watching. A young president, Kennedy, needed a stage where America could win. Not the next lap, not the next milestone. Something so absurdly hard the Soviets couldn't just leapfrog it overnight. Something like the moon. In 1962, he made it official at a stadium in Houston. We choose to go to the moon not because it's easy, but because it's hard. Beautiful words. But underneath them was raw geopolitical panic. This wasn't curiosity about the cosmos. This was a proxy war fought with rockets instead of missiles. Beating the Soviets to the moon meant proving democracy could out-engineer communism. The moon was a scoreboard. And so, America opened its wallet like never before in peacetime. To understand the scale, forget the rockets for a second. Just look at what this actually cost the country. At its peak, the Apollo program ate about 4% of the entire federal budget. Adjusted for today, the total bill was somewhere around $280 billion for a few footprints. Over 400,000 people worked on it. Engineers, seamstresses, stitching spacesuits, mathematicians, technicians, an entire civilization bent toward one goal. It was arguably the largest peacetime mobilization in human history. And it worked. July 1969, Neil Armstrong steps down onto the surface. 600 million people watch on grainy screens. For one moment, the entire planet holds its breath together. The race was won. America had beaten the Soviets. And here's where the story takes its dark turn, because the very thing that funded Apollo was also the thing that would kill it. If the goal was beating the Soviets, and you've beaten them, then what exactly is the point of going a 7th time? An 8th? The public asked that question, and the politicians heard it loudly. The final planned missions, Apollo 18, 19, and 20, were canceled. The fully built hardware, rockets that could have flown, ended up as lawn ornaments outside museums. Perfectly good moon rockets, grounded forever. There were other pressures too. The Vietnam War was draining money and morale. Cities had problems on the ground. Spending billions to collect gray rocks started to feel like an obscene luxury. And here's the brutal truth about the moon program. It was never self-sustaining. It ran entirely on political will, and political will is the most fragile fuel in existence. When the fear faded, the funding evaporated. So by 1972, it was over. NASA pivoted to the space shuttle. Staying comfortably in low Earth orbit, the moon became a memory. But surely we could just go back whenever we wanted, right? Not exactly. Here's the part that shocks people. We didn't just stop going. In a very real sense, we lost the ability. Not because we got dumber, but because the how-to leaked out of the system. Consider the Saturn V, the rocket that carried Apollo. We don't have complete, usable blueprints anymore. Oh, the drawings exist, thousands of them, but engineering is not just paper, it's people. A blueprint tells you the shape of a part. It doesn't tell you the exact temperature a technician heated the metal, the hand feel of a weld, the workaround someone scribbled and never wrote down. That's called tacit knowledge. It lived inside the heads of 400,000 workers. And over 50 years, those people retired, moved on, or passed away. The knowledge didn't get saved, it got scattered. The factories that built Apollo hardware closed. The specialized tooling was scrapped. The supply chains for specific alloys and components dissolved. You can't just phone up a company that hasn't existed for 4 decades. So rebuilding Apollo wouldn't be copying homework. It would be reverse engineering a lost civilization's technology from the outside in. And honestly, we wouldn't want to. Because Apollo was insanely, terrifyingly risky. Let's talk about the problems everyone forgets. Start with radiation. Low Earth orbit, where the shuttle and space station live, sits inside Earth's protective magnetic field. It's a shielded harbor. The moon is the open ocean. Beyond that shield, astronauts face cosmic rays and sudden solar storms that can deliver dangerous doses in hours. Apollo astronauts basically got lucky. No major solar flare hit during their brief trips. Lucky is not a plan. For a short Apollo dash, you gamble. For the long stays we now want, weeks or months, radiation becomes a genuine health threat you must engineer around. That's mass, that's shielding, that's more cost. Then there's landing. And this is the one that keeps engineers awake at night. There is no air on the moon. That single fact wrecks almost everything we know about landing on Earth or Mars. No air means no parachutes. No air means engines kick up dust that flies in razor-straight lines, blinding cameras and sandblasting equipment. You must slow from thousands of miles per hour using rockets alone, perfectly. And the surface is a minefield of boulders and craters. Land on a slope steeper than a few degrees, and your billion-dollar spacecraft tips over. Recent landers from multiple nations have failed doing exactly this. Now stack the challenges. Radiation, precision landing, life support for longer missions, dust that clogs everything, temperatures swinging hundreds of degrees between light and shadow. Each problem is hard. Together, they're brutal. But the hardest problem isn't physics. It's that same fragile fuel from before, money and political will. A moon program spans multiple presidential terms, and each new administration loves to cancel the last one's dream. NASA has watched Moon and Mars plans get announced and quietly killed over and over across decades. It's genuinely hard to build a rocket that takes a decade when your funding might vanish in 4 years. So put it all together and here's the honest verdict. Going back to the moon isn't just repeating history, it is, in several key ways, genuinely harder than the first time. So why is everyone suddenly racing again? Because for the first time in 50 years, the fragile fuel is flowing again. There's a new fear driving it, and its name is China. This is Sputnik all over, just with a different flag. China has landed rovers on the moon, including the far side, something no one had ever done. They've returned lunar samples and openly plan to land astronauts and build a base near the resource-rich South Pole. Suddenly, Washington cares deeply again. Enter Artemis, NASA's program to return humans to the moon and, crucially, to stay this time. Not a flag-planting sprint, but a permanent, sustainable presence. At least, that's the promise. Why the South Pole obsession? Because tucked in its permanently shadowed craters, there's water ice. Water means drinking, means breathable oxygen, and split apart means rocket fuel. Water on the moon is a fuel station. And here's what's actually different this time. We're not doing it alone, and governments aren't doing it all. Enter the wild card that changed everything. A private company selling rides to space, SpaceX. SpaceX cracked reusable rockets, landing boosters back on Earth like a science fiction movie. That slashes launch costs dramatically. Apollo threw everything away every flight. Throwing away skyscrapers is why the moon was so absurdly expensive. Their giant Starship is designed to carry huge payloads and, in theory, be refueled in orbit. That changes the math completely. Cheaper, heavier, more forgiving missions mean you don't need a blank government check to survive. So what's truly different? First, better tech. Reusable rockets, modern computers, decades of robotics. Second, a real economic goal, water and resources, not just bragging rights. Third, competition that refuses to let politicians lose interest. But don't get comfortable. Timelines keep slipping. Rockets keep exploding in testing, which is normal but nerve-wracking. And that fragile fuel, political will, can still vanish if a future government simply loses the appetite. So here's the real answer to our question. We stopped because we went for the wrong reason, and once that reason was gone, so was the money. The moon didn't get farther away, our motivation did. Now the motivation is back, sharper and more permanent than a Cold War stunt. If it holds, humans could walk there again within this decade, this time to stay. If this rewired how you see the moon, subscribe, and let's watch the next giant leap together.